Hi everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. Guess what? I have perhaps the most exciting car that you will ever come across, which is the 2025 Porsche 911. This is the facelifted version called the 992 2.2. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why maybe buying or owning something like a 911 could potentially transform your life. What do I mean by that? Well, let's get right into it. Welcome back. So you can kind of feel my excitement because this is the facelifted version of the iconic, legendary 911 called the 992.2 because the previous version was 992.1. And you know what? There's so much things to tell you about the 911 in terms of the updates for this 2025 model year. But right now, I just really want to focus on explaining to you why having something like this could transform your life. Now, I was just at the Porsche head office about 2 months ago, and I actually watched the 2025 911 go down the factory process. So it was really exciting to see the actual factory. I've been there many times, about 10 or 11 times, but always super exciting to see this thing being built. And so I'm going to talk about the quality in a second, but I'm also going to give you 5 reasons why if at some point in your life you can find a way to buy a 911, even a used one, I think it could really transform your driving feel, your driving lifestyle, and maybe even change your life in some way. Let me explain why that's the case a little bit later on. But first, let's take a look at the quality of this 911. Again, model year 2025, lots of facelifted changes. But you know what? The actual manufacturing, as I always say about Porsche, it's incredible quality. And you don't expect that from Porsche sometimes because it's a German manufacturer and they're not always the best in terms of exterior quality. But this one has tremendous quality because Porsche has learned from Toyota in the form of Toyota production system many decades ago, and they adopted and continue to adopt lean manufacturing or Toyota production system into their methods. And you can see the fruit of their work because the actual gaps and alignment is crazy. This is 2.9 here. This is only 2.8 millimeters, so even better than my Lexus LC500, which should be the best built cars in the world. The gap over here, also 3 millimeter, and yeah, 3 millimeter there as well. And there's always a little bit wider gap in the trunk, but even then it's only 3.5. And even though it's raining outside, so it's really wet, you can see the consistency of the panels. Like something like this is really hard to get it right because it bulges like this. And manufacturing people actually do not like these curvy contours because it's really hard to get that perfect. But this looks absolutely gorgeous in terms of the actual contours. Alignment looks really good. And even though you can't really tell the paint quality because it's wet right now, I've seen many Porsche 911s, and this is no exception. The depth of the paint, the clear coat, just the uniformity and the consistency of paint is, world class. So here's one example where even Lexus might have to learn from Porsche because this one looks like it's better built than the Lexus LC500 that I own, at least in terms of exterior quality, exterior panel, and even the paint job looks a tad better. Of course, Lexus LC500 is a beautiful car to drive, but there is no comparison between this and the LC500 in terms of the pure fun to drive factor. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit later on, because this thing is a pure sports car, but with a grand touring attributes because it's still comfortable, whereas the LC500 is a pure grand touring sports car or sports coupe and maybe not quite as fun to drive except for the amazing 5-liter V8. But this one, which has a non-hybrid version of the Porsche engine, is still an amazing engine to drive with. So in case you were curious about the changes for 2025, there are many changes. I won't go through all of them right now. There's some minor changes over here and the headlight as well, but the back has also changed a little bit. Not really any changes on the side, but things like these brake lamps have moved down a little bit. The details have changed here. Also, all the details here have changed, along with some of the modification to the bumper. But you can't really tell exactly. If you really have to tell from outside, then you look for the actual lights. There used to be lights over here, but that's been now integrated into here. So there's no more light over here. That's telltale sign number 1. And then telltale sign number 2, as I mentioned, is that the brake lamp here has been modified. And so this is smaller and shorter than the previous version. So that's how you tell right away the new version. But this one is non-hybrid, yes, turbocharged, but Porsche also introduced the hybrid version for the first time in the history of the 911, which is in the form of a GTS, and also any of the subsequent models higher trim than GTS will have a hybrid version combined with turbocharger. And of course, there's a big question mark as to whether people will enjoy and accept a hybrid Porsche 911. But so far, the feedback has been really excellent. I haven't driven that version yet, but this one, which is a base Carrera without the hybrid, still has amazing amount of power and torque. And honestly, you don't need any more power and any more torque, because even the base Carrera has so much performance. Now, take you out on the road in a second here. But again, the quality control is absolutely fantastic on the outside. Let's take a quick look inside, and I'll continue to talk about why this car might transform your life. So I'm inside the 911 now, and as I mentioned, because of the Porsche production process, closely following toward the production methods, you know what, the interior quality is also fantastic. All the stitching, all the components are super tight, nothing is loose, and all the panels and the plastic parts look fantastic. Which brings me to my first reason why owning or buying a Porsche 911, if you can afford it, can really transform your life. And that is the fact that this is a dream machine for everyone, including myself. I haven't had a chance to buy the 911. I've owned many Porsches, mostly all Macans. But of course, for me as well, the dream is to buy and own a 911 at some point. Not Ferrari, not Lamborghini, obviously not something like Pagani, which is just a crazy amount of money. None of us can afford that. But the Porsches are somewhat within reach. You know, I mean, maybe you might have to sell your house or remortgage it to buy it, but it's not out of hand, I think, for some of you guys anyway. And so it's always been a dream machine for me. It's probably a dream machine for many of you guys. And so, you know, the first point is that if you actually buy this car, then you've kind of fulfilled one very important aspect in your life, if this is one of your most important goals. So that's the first reason. This is a dream for everyone, and to fulfill that dream means something to some of us. The second reason why owning or driving a Porsche 911 can fundamentally change your perspective and transform your driving feel and experience is because there's nothing else that comes close to 911. This thing drives not only like a true sports car, but it does it with a style and refinement. This is a car that you can drive to your nearest grocery store and go to work, but when you want to step on it, well, it takes off like a rocket ship. The revised engine with a revised turbocharger provides immense power and torque, but more than that is the steering feel, the steering character, the suspension setting, everything combined together makes this 911 a one of a kind. And so when you drive the 911, you actually cannot drive anything else out there, simply because the experience is so amazing, so delightful, so beautiful and exciting. And therefore, if you can own a 911, it will change the way you look at driving forever. It just will never be the same. You'll be ruined for life because everything else you drive will not feel the same. And so I'm on the road right now, and this is absolutely pouring right now. But even with the heavy rain, this car actually handles well. It has a wet mode, so I can put that on and the car will not slide. Even though this is a rear-wheel drive, it still drives amazing. Everything from the shifting, the steering feel, the suspension, even the ride, absolutely world class. And therefore, it will just change the way you feel about driving altogether, because you're going to want to drive all the time when you have a 911. The third reason to keep in mind is the fact that Porsche 911 is one of those cars you can keep for the rest of your life, regardless of your age, because it's something that you can probably drive it for 10, 20, 30 years. It's still worth something. It will always drive wonderful. And it might even be a car that you can pass on to your kids or to someone else, because this is, I think, what I call a lifetime ownership. There are many cars that you might enjoy buying, but at some point, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you might want to sell it and change it to something else. I'm pretty convinced that if you buy a 911, you never really have the desire or need to change it to another car, unless, of course, you're buying a newer 911. So the third reason why this car could change your life is because this could be the only car you ever need, and you can keep it for the rest of your life. So thankfully, I have had a chance to drive Porsche 911s many times in my life. Most recently at a Porsche head office in Germany, I drove a 2024 911. This is 2025. And every time I drive it, I say to myself, wow, if I could just take 1 month off or 2 months off, if it's possible to do that, this is car I will take and drive all across US or Canada and just really enjoy the pure driving feel of this vehicle. Something that I wouldn't say about any other car that I might have driven or owned. And I think this 911, if you do have it, will inspire you to then go further and further and discover new things in life and travel to new places in a way that you might not do otherwise. Again, because it's such a beautiful car to drive, and it's going to make you want to go and explore the world in general. So that's something to keep in mind. I think it opens up your mind and gives you a different perspective in life. So as I mentioned to you earlier, I have been very fortunate to be able to own a number of Porsches, including Macan GTS, and also even a Boxster. But you know, my experience owning a Porsche is quite different from owning all the other brands, even compared to Lexus. There's some kind of a special elements to do with the Porsche ownership because there is such a huge community of a very, very loyal Porsche owners, and also they're very enthusiastic about owning a Porsche. I belong to a couple of the forums and also some clubs, and you know what, they talk about this brand and these models like their life partners, and maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but I will say owning a Porsche and experiencing the ownership and talking about it with other owners is very different than compared to owning a Lexus or any other brands. I've owned Audis and many other German brands as well. So I think the fifth reason why buying or owning a 911 could really change your life is because what I call the post-purchase experience of owning it, talking to others, going to Porsche club events and so forth, just enhances the whole feel of owning a Porsche. And that's something that you cannot get it from any other brands. Perhaps maybe if you buy something really expensive like Ferrari or Lamborghini, they have their own club as well. But within the mainstream sports car brands, I think Porsche has the most extensive network of people who just absolutely love the brand, and they have many, many get-togethers and events throughout the year. So I feel that if you own a 911, it's not just that you enjoy the car, but you're going to enjoy the ownership of it because there's so many different ways to enjoy this vehicle along with many other people who own Porsche. So I hope that's helpful for you to understand why at some point I'm going to have to buy a 911 because it's not just my dream machine, but also because I know this is one car that I could own for the rest of my life and really, really enjoy. And at some point, maybe I'll make that happen. But for now, I hope that if you are in a position to be able to buy something like 911, go and do it. This 2025 911 is the best iteration of the 911 ever. It will really dramatically change your lifestyle and your outlook in life because you can use the 911 as a life-changing vehicle to go and discover new things, go and network with others, and kind of just bring that driving experience to a whole new level. And of course, life is short, so if you can afford it, you got to make that happen. I really love the 2025 Porsche 911. Even the base model Carrera is absolutely amazing. I can't wait to drive the GTS or the turbo models. But honestly, the base model, I can't even call it base, but this thing is fantastic, and it's probably the best sports car I've ever driven. By the way, many thanks to Porsche Center Langley, which has given me the opportunity to drive this beautiful Porsche 911 992.2 version. Absolutely beautiful car to drive. But I do want to recognize how good the Porsche Center Langley is as a dealership. I purchased many models from them in the past, and I'm still a current customer of Porsche Center Langley, and they always look after me. But more than that, they just know what they're doing. Their knowledge level, their service level is best in Vancouver, and no other Porsche dealers even come close. So if you're buying a Porsche, don't forget, Porsche Center Langley is the best one in town. If you enjoyed my video, please give me a thumbs up and make some comments. And if you haven't done so yet, would you kindly subscribe as well? Until next video, I'm signing off for now. Thank you so much.